Democratic incumbent Ilhan Omar has already secured her spot on the November ballot for Minnesota's 5th congressional district. Challenger Melton-Meaux conceded about an hour ago, and the Associated Press called the race around 9:30. Even though 98% of precincts have reported their numbers in the race, mail-in ballots will still be counted until Thursday, so the vote totals will change. However, the experts at the AP don't feel there are enough outstanding votes for Melton-Meaux to close the gap.
I was told that Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were all disliked in their districts and had to fend off these tough primary challengers, they said. Ilhan Omar's opponent was so well funded, they said. She's been outraised, they said. Ilhan Omar could be one and done and was likely to lose, they said. Well, she crushed her opponent, who received buckets of cash from far-right pro-Israel groups. She crushed him just like Rashida Tlaib and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez crushed their opponents, but inspired even larger turnout. Dave Weigel of the Washington Post reports that turnout was just unbelievable in Omar's district, meaning her voters were excited to get to the polls for her too, in the middle of a pandemic. But apparently Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are so unpopular in their districts that you can just flood them with dark money from different special interest groups or just straight up billionaire cash. In the case of Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her opponent was a former CNBC anchor. Basically, it was ridiculous. A Democrat in name only. She was funded by Chamber of Commerce, all these other conservative groups. So that's how Washington, D.C. thinks. We can just flood this district with money and they'll forget about the fact that their representative actually represented them. Nope, that's not the case. It's all projection. Their districts love them. They're solid blue districts, and they want a progressive. You in Washington, D.C. don't like them because they're uncompromising. They don't take PAC money. They don't take billionaire money. They advocate for Medicare for all. They advocate for ending the wars and the bloodshed we cause overseas. They want college for all, etc. They challenge the powerful, and so the powerful hate them, and they assume that they can trick the districts and the constituents into hating them. No mas. This is a different generation. This is a new time. And people actually want their representatives to represent them. And they've seen that Ilhan Omar certainly represents her district with fire, passion, and bravery. More on her victory. In Minnesota, freshman Congress member Ilhan Omar, one of 3 Muslims in Congress, defeated a well-funded challenger in Tuesday's primary elections. Anton Melton-Meaux's campaign raised $3.2 million in the second quarter of 2020, 7 times as much as Omar's campaign. Melton-Meaux had the support of 2 pro-Israel lobby groups that bundled 20% of his large dollar donations. He was also backed by 2 billionaires. Ilhan Omar, who's been outspoken in her support of Palestinian rights, celebrated her victory Tuesday by tweeting that organized people will always beat organized money. She added, "It's about standing up for the basic human rights around the world and fighting a military-industrial complex that opposes the recognition of people's humanity and dignity." Just take the time to celebrate that. A member of Congress calling out the military-industrial complex. An immigrant, a Muslim woman, who is unabashed and uncompromising in a good way in her values. And that's why she's so despised. There are a few industries you can call out. If you're a Democrat, call out the NRA all you want. Call out the gun lobby all you want. No one cares. No one cares. You can go after specific industries and their greed. Oh, maybe you want to touch on big pharma, but even that's a little touchy. The military-industrial complex, that is bipartisan. The Senate just overwhelmingly shot down Bernie Sanders' amendment, with many Democrats voting on that side, to take 10% of the military budget away in the middle of a pandemic, as our budget deficit just balloons, which Republicans say they're supposed to care about. Just 10%, which is less than the increase from when Trump came into office. And a lot of Democrats were like, no, we can't even have that. That's how ubiquitous and far-reaching the military-industrial complex is, as well as the far-right Israel lobby, which is backed by nutty evangelicals who basically want the end times to happen, and it's anti-Semitic in itself. It's this disgusting wormhole. And then they accuse Ilhan Omar of anti-Semitism when she's just advocating for Palestinians to not be treated like second-class citizens and live in an apartheid state. Those are two of the unspoken rules of Washington. Don't touch Israel, especially if you're not, Bernie Sanders almost has a shield as a Jewish American. He's able to talk about those issues strongly. But Ilhan Omar, because she's already treated with such vile bigotry, they also go after her for being a bigot. So she broke that rule, and she breaks the rule of going after the military-industrial complex, which Democratic pollsters will say, no one cares about that. No one cares about foreign policy, dignity for people in Yemen. No. Ilhan Omar understands that we're all connected. And she has the bravery and the moral fortitude to make that central to her representation in Minnesota. And I just think it's awesome. So the squad prevails. The squad prevails despite constant efforts to tear them down.